All righty then. So welcome to another episode of Sports Extra. A man who is definitely a wonderful sports analyst, a man who I met a long time ago, but obviously we're now good friends in that. Nathaniel Mafemba is with me today. I'm Ruimbo Chakoreka. Nathaniel, good to have you.
Yeah, it's good to be on your platform, Ruim. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long while, but there's so much we have to talk about. So here's what's coming up on the show. We're going to be talking about our Warriors. Well, our Warriors did it against Kenya. We've gone to the AFCON, but what next? Of course, tonight they're taking on Cameroon in Yaoundé. Whether we win, we lose, or whatever, it doesn't matter. But what now? From here till 2025, what do we do to ensure we go past the group stage? We're going to be discussing a little bit about that. Of course, we're going to look at the very tumultuous and controversial issue that is happening right now. Carroll United, Scotland FC, judgment there. What is the root cause? Why is there such a problem and so on? And then, of course, we're also going to be looking at our Sables. Sables end the year undefeated after that very, very sneaky win against South Korea. We're also going to be analyzing that. And then, of course, finally, Premier League action as well as European Football League action is back. We were tired of this Nations League nonsense and this, it's a waste of people's time. But anyway, nonetheless, we're back to business and we'll obviously be looking at all of that. So much to discuss. Make sure that you stay tuned, continue to like, comment, share, subscribe to our various channels and social media platforms so that you can be in touch with everything that we talk about on Sports Extra. See you on the other side. All right, welcome back. Nathaniel, let's dig into it. Warriors. Well done. In actual fact, before we start discussing, this is how some of the fans and the Warriors are celebrated down in Polokwane. Great celebrations there, Nathaniel. But fine. Tough game against Kenya. In my feeling, I feel like as if we almost threw it away in the second half after a very strong defensive performance in the first half and obviously gotten that goal. But that's now done and dusted.
Now done and dusted.
What do we do from here till 2025?
It's a bit of a challenge on what we should do. Why am I saying that? The main reason is when we look at the international breaks that we have in 2025, most of them we are going to be playing World Cup qualifiers, which means we don't have time to experiment. I would have preferred a situation where during the international breaks that we are going to be having in 2025, I would try several players, try several combinations. But as we know, I don't really think we still have a realistic chance of going to the World Cup. But anything is possible. Looking at, we've got 2 points and the leading peg is around 7-8 points. It's still doable, but it's a challenge. So when we're looking at that, it means every game that we're going to be playing, there's no room for experiment. We have to try to qualify, even if we fail. So we just hope for the best with what we have and what the coach selects.
All right. So now, big question is, in terms of selection, does the coach have much to work with? That's now another question. Do we have enough quality? Because I still feel that there is a concern, a massive concern for me up front. We're not fluid enough in attack in order to actually score many goals. And one may argue and say, but against Namibia we scored. Well, against Namibia almost everybody won. So clearly it wasn't necessarily the best of tests to see if we actually have got a front row. We are still over reliant on Kamabilia to do most of our finishing.
Yeah, I think when we want to be honest with ourselves as a country, as a nation, as a football nation, when we are looking at the strike force and the attacking part of the midfield, it's been, I would say, more than a decade. If not more than a decade, maybe 2 decades. We haven't had quality up front. We have to be honest. When we look at our local premiership, our strikers are failing to hit 20 goals a season. And if you want to make a comparison, if here in Africa we had the African Golden Boot, and they use the same rationale as the European Golden Boot, where the top 5 leagues, each goal gets about 2 points, then the maybe league 6 to 21, 22 thereabout, they get 1.5 per goal. That is 1.5 points per goal. I think Zimbabwe would fall under the 6 to 22, which means if we're going to say our top marksmen in the top 5 leagues in Africa are scoring more than 20 goals, which means our strikers have to be scoring maybe close to 30 or above 30 to have a chance of winning the boot. Now, when we look at what we have, the most we can go up to is around 17 goals, 15 goals. Maybe this year we might go above 15 because I think Chikwa has around 17
He's
goals.
got 16,
16, 17 goals, and it's 1 match to go. And I don't think
it's good to score.
So that he's 20 or 4. If he needs 4 to hit 20. So I think strike force is a challenge. Even if we are to look at the foreign-based players that are playing in attack in Europe, it's still the same story.
Yeah, no, they are not scoring well.
Then when we take a step back, we move into our midfield, the attacking part of the midfield.
Oh, wow.
We don't have ball players. No clean passes. It's just a matter of to whom it may concern. That's how it is. That's how So there is no. Actually, I think what we have to do as a nation. Yes, we qualified. Yes, we can try to build up, like we were talking about earlier off camera, that we need to build a culture of qualifying and qualifying. Well, I think in maybe 2 decades, we've qualified about 6 times. I think we've gone past trying to, we need to try and become a powerhouse. Not in name, but in results. At the tournament, not in qualifying. Because obvious, this was never in doubt. We look at the group, there was Zimbabwe, Kenya, Cameroon, Namibia. Yes, Namibia was the last AFCON. Yes, they did well, they overachieved. But when we look at it, there was not much football being played locally in Namibia. They were more like a club side in courts as a national team. Whereas they were just together as a national team. So they had so much time to fine-tune. But when we looking at we're now into the different set of qualifying group with different opponents. This was never in doubt. Because when we look at it, the only threat was Cameroon. Cameroon are past masters of qualification, be it for the World Cup, be it for AFCON, and they've won it. They recently won maybe 2-3 editions ago. Kenya, they couldn't learn how to qualify on Zimbabwe at the expense of Zimbabwe. That was going to be a disaster. And if that had happened, we needed to just get rid of the technical team and the players and started on a top level.
But all right, so fine. There we go. as you said, no room for experimentation
Yeah.
now. As we're going through, we've got World Cup qualifiers to deal with and things like that. Is that also not a place? Like, look, let's be honest. I personally, look, I don't want to be quoted as unpatriotic. I'm very patriotic. I love my nation. I want it to succeed in any kind of way. In fact, if you had seen me celebrating when they qualified, you wouldn't think these words would come out of my mouth. I don't think the World Cup is a realistic target at the present moment. And I think I've mentioned various points and reasons why. You find for those that will be able to qualify for the World Cup, you just look at their basic ranking. Those are the guys that generally have the most likelihood to qualify. So teams like Morocco, teams like Cameroon, as you've already mentioned, teams like Senegal, teams like Cote d'Ivoire, teams like Tunisia, were slightly outside chance, but they've got the capacity. Egypt is right up there in terms of the qualification process. South Africa is in a much better space than we are in. So already you're looking at around about 6 to 7 places already occupied, with only 2 left for anyone else to make it. And there are other teams that are way better than us in terms of their current condition. Nigeria and Ghana and so on, and we can go ahead on that, because we're talking about pedigree, we're talking about current ranking, we're talking about the quality of players, we're talking about the ability as well to step up when required to. These are some of the things that you would expect would come from sides like that. So in my particular view, I would say use the World Cup qualifying process to now begin to set up your team for the future, particularly for 2025. Now begin to say, we haven't experimented with Mali Tabaziwa. Is he going to get a chance tonight? Well, we don't know. We haven't used the others that are on the bench. Let's see what they can offer. If it means we have to remove them after 50, 60 minutes in the Cameroon game, 2 or 3, then so be it. But we need to create that depth. And that depth chart, I think Michael Nees has also stated, but there are locally depth chart here. I know Miramush.
Actually, it's something that as a nation, we are always running away from. I do agree with everything that you said. And the starting point being, when we look locally, there is nothing. There is no stuff. Let's be honest with each other. There is no individual that you can pinpoint and say, this is international. This is international material. Because playing locally, like as I've already mentioned a while ago, playing locally and being good doesn't make you ready for international football. Playing international football at 3 p.m. Wearing national colors is different from playing, say, Simba Bora, FC Platinum, Dynamos, whatever club you can think of. So what I do feel like would be a challenge. I do agree with you that we have to experiment. Because let's be honest, the World Cup is a long shot. We've got South Africa to deal with. We've got Nigeria. Of course, Nigeria is in a bad space, but still, they can always. They've got the quality. Let's be honest. For Nigeria, it's not a quality thing. I think it's a coaching thing of trying to set up the team. Well, there's so much quality and there's so many players. So trying to find the right players to fit in a system. I think that's the main challenge for Nigeria. So we still have to deal with Nigeria. Nigeria are going away. South Africa, we're going away because we don't have a stadium. Then we've got Rwanda, we're going away again. So it's more like Benin, we are going to play home and away. We are going to play away. It's home, but it's home away and away again. So Benin is not a bad side. Let's be honest.
They're a decent side,
within our own group, before we even look outside the other groups, within our own group, I mean, there's a challenge, and the challenge is steep. And looking at where we are now, of course, it might be a 5-point gap, a 6-point gap, it doesn't matter. But looking at, we have to play all these sides away from home in countries that and conditions that we are not used to as a country. And most of the time, we are going to be having, like, you find Kenya were complaining, what, but we're all strangers in South Africa. And we're all strangers. Of course, Polokwane temperature might almost be similar to Zimbabwe, so it would suit Zimbabwe a bit better than Kenya, but still, we're all away from home.
Yeah.
So I think And the other issue that I wanted to mention was, is the nation ready to be told that we are going to be experimenting with World Cup qualifiers? Is the nation ready? Or they believe that in the back of their minds, even though it's just a world dream that they are going to be in America and Canada and Mexico, which I don't think is possible. Because, as you mentioned, Ruim, you said that even if we try to revisit each and every World Cup that has gone by, when we look at the countries that have qualified from Africa, it's almost similar countries. A new entry, maybe now and then, like Angola did, now and then. It's not like it's a common thing. So already you expect your big boys to be at the World Cup. And as it is in our group, we've got two big boys to deal with. Before we talk about Benin, Rwanda, I know Rwanda is not, we can do something. But Benin is not a big side. The bad side, I mean. We've watched how they played the previous qualifiers. I think they've qualified for one recent one, recent AFCON. So it's not a bad side. Given also we're going to play the moment away, away and away. Away and away. I think
please fix that issue, please. Gadrisa Ioma authorities, honestly. Bucket seats have been said they are coming, they are there, they've been paid for, this and that. But anyway, hopefully it's sorted out.
But even if you talk about bucket seats, I'm not so sure that the picture of the pitch, the National Sports Stadium pitch, that did the rounds on social media, whether that's the actual situation on the ground. If that's the situation on the ground, it means we don't have a stadium. Even if we put bucket seats, because that pitch needs some work, and I don't think CAF will approve that pitch.
Well, in any case, the Warriors have done well. They've qualified for 2025 AFCON. Would love to hear your thoughts and your comments around that one. We quickly move on because this segment obviously will become a little bit too long. But let's quickly go on to the current local football situation that we have. Northern Region Soccer League being the topic of discussion at the moment. And apparently, a lot of people are saying that, you know what, Northern Region has kind of dug itself into a bit of a hole because there are a number of other decisions with a similar circumstance where matches were abandoned and it was given as a 1-1 draw, or that match was either replayed or redone, especially if that stoppage in play didn't come towards the end of the game and maybe came, didn't go to Pakati, kind of, so to speak. So now they've made a decision. Yes, 3 points given to, and Scotland FC have already got 2024 champions t-shirts and all these interesting things. But Karoy United has now gone on to appeal. What is the root of the issue here, Nathaniel? Where is this situation coming from?
To start off, I think since the inception of Northern Region, this is been their worst season ever. And to be frank, it's not like these things happened this year. This has always been happening. But when we look back, because I'll give a very good example where most people in Harare would agree with me that it's ununderstandable why that club failed to get promotion. And everyone knows the reason. That's why I'm saying these things didn't start now. They started way back. Even in the days of Seko Cement, the Sporting Lions, you get Monumtap, you can mention. There was a club called Harare United. Harare United, I think Harare United played tiki-taka football before Pep Guardiola made it famous at Barcelona during his reign around 2008-7 thereabouts to 2011. Harare United type of football was easy on the eye, and in terms of scoring goals, they scored goals. But when it came to promotion, everyone knows it was an issue of match fixing that denied them season after season. Even if they played whatever type of football, scored whatever number of goals. It all came down. I'll give you a very good example of a match that I remember. I'll give you two matches that I remember. There's one that was played. It was a season when London got promoted. The return leg was played at DZ Stadium. I've never seen such officiating. The first incident that happened was Thomas Magorimbo, who later played for Dynamos, was one star player for Harare United. He got a red card. Then Daron Nyandoro, who played for Monamtapa, went to play for Chicken in locally. Then Tipi Mazembe scored a goal, and the referee just said, just disallowed the goal. He said, the player insulted me. I don't know where that happens. Where else in the world that happens, where a goal is disallowed because the referee says
I was
the referee claimed that I was insulted. Then the other match was Harare United versus Monumtapa. The year that Monumtapa got promoted. That match was played in it was played at Kwanzura Stadium. I was in the stadium again, sitting behind the goal where that fateful and promotion ceiling equalizer by Monumtapa was scored. And I think Harare United scored in the first half. They were leading 1-0. And they were missing chance after chance. And we were always saying, once in the terraces, we were always saying, they're going to pay for this. The referee will make a funny decision. And it will be the end of their promotion run. And as we were stating, around 80 something or just after 80 minutes, with a few minutes to go, the referee just pointed a free kick outside the box, and that was a Daniel Sokoto territory. And indeed, Daniel Sokoto just did as Daniel Sokoto used to do. He just buried the free kick, and the match ended 1-1, and that was the end of the Harare United campaign, promotion campaign for that particular. So when we come back to Scotland now, what has made this particular case a mess is, as a league, they've created a narrative in the people or in the public that they seem to be favoring one team over another. And I will point at the incidences. And when you look at the previous now incidences that we're talking about, the previous seasons, the league didn't seem or didn't show any indications that it was trying to push an agenda for a certain team to be promoted. Everything on the surface looked as it was an even playing field or landscape, where in actual fact, it's not like when these things happen, the league or the public don't know about these things. These things are talked about. So match fixing allegations are nothing new. But for this year now, the league put itself in a difficult position. Now we go on to the match in question, the Karoi versus Scotland. I won't talk about the rumors that the ref refused to officiate at a Premier League match, and then was able to officiate during the same weekend. Was able to officiate. No, I won't go into the board. I'm not so sure whether the referee is qualified to officiate. I know he's qualified to officiate Division 1 football matches, but I'm not so sure about Premier League matches because the levels are different. And the requirements and the processes are different. So I'm not so sure but I'll talk about the Karoi match. When we look at the Karoi match, the first thing that comes to question is when the issue of the abandonment, the news started doing the rounds on the particular Sunday. I think it was 15 September. The minutes that were being written about was the 88th minute. All over social media, it was all about the match was abandoned in the 88th minute. Now, let's move on to the reports. I don't know if the reports had been doctored or what. I'll get to that. When we go on to reading the report of the match commissioner, I don't know if he was watching that particular match or he was watching a different match. I don't know. Because in his report, he says it was the 82nd minute. regardless, it was the 80th minute or the 82nd minute.
Yeah.
I don't think that would have called for a decision to say the match was abandoned. So the result would be 3-0 in favor of Scotland. I'm not so sure. Right. Now, when we fast forward the days or the weeks, there was an audio. I don't know if it's authentic or it's not. Of the match commissioner. That's the match commissioner. It's alleged that it was the match commissioner who was berating the referees for having caused abandonment, which means the referee was at fault.
Yeah.
If the match commissioner is blaming the referee, it means Karo cannot be killed.
Yeah.
So now we move on to the disciplinary hearing and the final judgment. I think the main reason why we're in this mess is also not only the northern region, it's also to do with our mainstream media. Our mainstream media is not doing its job. They are sleeping on the job. Why I say they are sleeping on the job? When we go around, the perception now in the public domain is Karo admitted guilt.
Yeah.
But it's not Karo sending out or writing a plea of lenience doesn't mean you are admitting guilt. It's just it's more like a court proceedings in a normal court, magistrate court, high court. When you are found guilty, you are allowed to plead
for that.
For lenience to get a lighter sentence, but doesn't mean you are accepting guilt. So now that's one part of in which the media has done a disservice to us. They haven't educated the public that no, Karoi did not admit guilt. They were just pleading for a lighter sentence. Now, when you look at that, the first time I read that plea of lenience, I knew the region was going to be in trouble. If Karoi appealed that, why I'm saying so? You go to point number 6. That point, I don't know if the disciplinary committee read that point or they disregarded. I don't know, but that point is a very valid point, and I know Karoi will be using that point. And it's a very valid point that you cannot do away with or wish away. Where they say, because we can talk about it because it's in their plea for lenience. So I don't think they would be like assuming or bringing fiction into their plea. I suppose I never saw the letter that suspended the ref, but they claim that the referee has been suspended by the referees committee. And the referees committee comes under ZIFA.
Therefore,
which means by merely suspending the referee for his conduct, it means the referee is liable for the abandonment. Now, let me explain something to you that our media is not doing. 2 teams can cause an abandonment. 2 teams can decide we are not going to play the match. The match is abandoned. 2 sets of fans, say Highlanders fans, Dynamo's fans, can fight and the match is abandoned. 2 teams can abandon. We can agree on that. That is not in dispute. Now, let's go on to a referee and a team causing an abandonment. That's not, and that will never happen. Why I say so? A referee and a team cannot cause an abandonment or the same match. It's either it's the referee or it's a team. Now, if you found the referee guilty,
then that means it's only him who's liable.
Who's liable? The team cannot be. So already
there are issues, right?
There are issues with that technicality. There are issues. Then you go on to we're reading the letter from the ZIFA CEO requesting for proceedings from, I don't know if they've been wanted. You fail to understand. It also creates another narrative of what are they hiding? What's so difficult about taking the proceedings of the hearing from, I suppose, they had 53 Livingstone Avenue where the region is based, and just across town to 66 Bishop Ground in Milton Park. I don't know what's difficult about it. Or even someone can be given and just walk if there's no money for transport. Can walk with them.
Well, the assumption would also be that they've got emails, they've got scanning machines. You can scan the documents, send on email, everybody gets the thing. But in any case, before we make it far too long,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we know that there's supposed to be a judgment given by Zifa, even today as well.
Yeah.
So obviously, by the time that we are going to air this one, maybe a judgment might have been released. But your thoughts, in a nutshell, as we go to the break. Do you think that this decision would be overturned? And if overturned, what are maybe some of the scenarios that would be placed there?
To be honest, Ruimbo, looking at everything surrounding this case, I honestly believe this decision will be overturned, and the final decision, which is the one that should have been arrived at in the first place, without even looking at precedents, we are looking at the case, the merits of the case. The scoreline 1-1 stands, and the teams share the points, and Moors gets promoted or become champions by goal difference. I think that's what is there. When we look at the case,
that would be fair.
That was it there.
And what if they call for a replay of that match?
It's I think calling for a replay now
is unfair.
It's not unfair as such. It's a bit difficult. Why? Because the season 1 is now almost more than a week or two, almost approaching 2 weeks since it ended. Players have already been dismissed. Some have contracts that are coming to an end and won't be willing to come back and play one last match. So I don't think they'll call for a replay. What I think will just simply happen is they'll just look at precedents. Because the fortunate thing about the precedents now, or the cases being used, most of them have to do with the Northern region. And it's decisions that were made by the Northern region. So and I think there's a Brazil-Argentina World Cup qualifier. That's also that also got I think it was Brazil. I don't know. I've forgotten which of the two teams got penalized in terms of fines, but the scoreline stood. So I think what the Northern region will simply do is, or what the result, or what the judgment will come is, will be the result stands. The points are shared. Maybe Karoi will be found guilty as they were the home team. They will be found guilty for But the other issue that is in question at the moment is, what hit the ref? Was it the ball
or was it a
missile? The ref says it is an object that I failed to identify. But when you look at it, Ruimbo, if an object hits you, it falls within your vicinity. It falls within your vicinity. So that's why I'm saying this case, it's a mess. It's a mess.
Well, it definitely is a mess. Would like to hear your thoughts, and I think you got a very detailed analysis of what is happening with the Scotland and Karoi issue. So do let us know, what are your thoughts, what are your comments? Would love to hear them in the comment section. We appreciate that, and obviously we'll be using it even for our own analysis as well as our programming. We're going to take a short break. When we do come back this time round, we're going to be talking about rugby, and that is the Sables. They've done us proud. See you on the other side. Welcome back. Yeah, that one was a nice, good, long discussion on Warriors as well as Scotland FC. But let's now shift our attention to rugby now. Sables. Undefeated. They finished their year, and of course a very close one against South Korea. They coming out 27-22 winners. They are returning home today. And of course, I'm sure there will be lots of pomp, fanfare, partying, and so on and so forth as they go into the break, and then obviously pick up their preparations for the 2025 Rugby Africa Cup, which is the World Cup qualifying Rugby Africa Cup. So we hope that we'll be able to do well there. But Nathaniel, your general assessment, particularly of the performance that we had against South Korea.
Right. Firstly, it's good that we had an undefeated year, but also we should not fall into a comfort zone because some of the opposition, they are a bit questionable. But anyway, when we look at the South Korea, I didn't know South Korea played rugby. I got to know
They've
about
played it for 100 years, Nathaniel. They've played it for 100
Yeah,
years.
just also runs. You never hear being mentioned anyway. But anyway, I think we, and also the technical team, got to learn a lot about our current status as a rugby nation, or our performance as a rugby team. When we look at it, in the first 20 minutes, we're all over, South Korea. And I thought we are going to have an easy run on the park. But what I later realized is we still lack that killer instinct. And there are so many areas of concern. Yes, we won by a margin of a try, which we have to be grateful because our defense did us proud. They managed to withstand the heat because we were under attack from the South Koreans. But I think we need to add some meat in the forwards. We're being bullied, be it scrum, be it line outs, be it rucks, everything. We're in trouble. Maybe it was because, as you mentioned, that no, this was a third string combination. But even still, we need depth because when we look at next year being our qualification Africa Cup, I think yes, this year we won against Namibia, and obviously Namibia having been to every other World Cup at our expense, they would want to continue with the run. Yes, they would say, it's okay, we lost this one. But the crucial one, that takes us to the World Cup,
we will win.
Let's do things a bit different. But so far, I think we have something to work with.
Yeah, no, I think we do have something to work with. I think many people's concern, even generally my concern, is around our back row. That's our locks within the scrum. I think we don't have enough depth there. I also think in terms of the hooker, Simba Mandiwoma is basically the only one. We've obviously got a youngster in Brian Chiang who are trying to blood into the side, but I think it would be far too early to actually say for a World Cup qualifying campaign that if a Simba Mandiwoma, for example, was to get injured after the first match, that he would be able to carry us through a semi-final and into a final. There are nerves that come with that. There's pedigree. There's, playing on the big stage that also comes with that. And I feel that would be far too much pressure on a youngster like that. But in terms of our lock pairing, I think we've got a serious challenge there. We tried to experiment with Kudakwashe Nyakufaringwa as well as Simbasira. There was imbalance there, especially in terms of size, in terms of weight and everything. And so that's what ended up killing us in terms of our scrum. And then one other thing as well that I felt was a little bit of a challenge. We did not know how to play the rush defense of South Korea in the back line. And so clean ball was not available for our players to really run on. We scored our tries a lot from broken play and not necessarily from structured play or a structured set piece move that actually brought us something. So for me, I think our loose trios, we've got tons of options, and I think Blythe Mavesere did well, Dylan Utete did well, Aiden Bennett, he also scored a try. In actual fact, all of our tries came from our loose trio. 2 tries from Blythe Mavesere and 1 from Aiden Bennett. So already that begins to show you that we don't have too many challenges there. But in terms of our backline, I think we struggled with getting clean ball out to our wingers. Edward Sigauke was made ineffective. Brendan Zegenidzi, pretty much the same thing. And then in the fullback position, my feeling as well for Thaddeus Zandiwandira, Teddy Boxer, he kind of struggled just a little bit, particularly under the high ball, a couple of knock-ons. And when now playing proper test rugby in that Rugby Africa Cup, especially against Namibia, Namibia is going to kick it for days. And that will mean that you have to be sure under the high ball. If it's wet conditions, which we clearly saw we struggle with, it's going to be another issue. So there's a lot for us to try and work on and that we need to try and deal with. But let's get to hear first and foremost from the half centurions or the Jubilee match, earners. That is, of course, Simamandi Woma and Hilton Ndariki straight after that particular match.
Guys, how you feel on your 50th?
Honestly, just relieved to get the win. I think the boys and Hilton as well. Like we worked hard, so hard, throughout the whole year, and to just like top it up with a victory away from home, last game of the year, couldn't be happier.
Yeah, like what Simba said, it's been a tough year for us. Boys have worked really hard, and we definitely deserve this. I think the work that the players, the coaches, medical staff, everyone that's involved in the Sables has put in 2024. This is what it comes down to. So yeah, we're super proud, and it's awesome for me to run out to my 50th with my good friend Simba. Yeah, been at it since the very beginning. So yeah, thank you so much for the support, guys. We appreciate it.
We really do, man.
Love you guys.
Thank you.
So, of course, they were excited to have represented the Sables there, but hopefully they'll be able to continue to do the job. Let's quickly move on from our Sables, of course, and talk about what's now happening on the international waters. Now, 2 events have taken place. Of course, we've now, for the first time in a long while, in actual fact, for the first time in history, we have had a Southern Hemisphere World Rugby President. This is Dr. Brett Robinson. He is now the new World Rugby President. And there's a general feeling and an aura that maybe more money will start coming down towards the Southern Hemisphere, because for the longest time, the Northern Hemisphere has benefited a lot more from the funding that World Rugby actually has. So Brett Robinson is now in. Herbert Mensah, who is the current president of Rugby Africa, is now part of the executive of World Rugby. And it looks like as well, it's good times for the Southern Hemisphere. But the big talking point for us is a breakaway league that is being thought about here. Whenever USA money and Middle East money comes into the picture, Nathaniel, you've got to start quivering and shaking.
Yeah. Whenever US money, Middle East money come into play, it's trouble. And also, we have to be frank. Sport now, but let's focus on rugby. Rugby, there isn't that much money. And now it creates a vulnerability on the existing system whenever someone comes along. So already I understand that there is 30 or so top players that have already agreed in principle to join this thing. And then they need over 200 players, because I think it's 8 franchises or so that they're looking at. Maybe the window of managing the situation might be the rugby union, the English rugby union, which says it will not alter its policy that you have to be playing in the Premiership to
play for the national team.
to play test rugby. Maybe that would deter the English players. But what I think and know is when money is thrown around, no one can resist. Everyone is a prize.
Everyone is a prize. And let's look at some of the money that's being talked about. They're talking about £900,000 to each player that will participate in this franchise league. Now, if you actually dig deep and go into some of the top tier rugby nations, and when you look at just their service within a year, the number of matches that they will play. I mean, there are the autumn internationals that are happening right now. Arguably, South Africa would have played within the rugby championship. I think they played around about 4 or so matches. You're looking at now this autumn international. I think they've picked up another 4 or 5 matches as well that they are playing, or that they're going to end up playing. You're looking at around about 10 or 12 games that you're going to be playing. The most that a player can get from their national team for the top tier nations may amount to somewhere within the region of 100 to about £150,000 or 150,000 US dollars, whichever way you may just want to look at that one. But this is 6 times more.
Actually, I'm forgetting the name of the English player, but it's Blake. They were saying the contract he has with English RFU is 160,000 a year. Now we're talking about 900,000 a year. That's a lot of paper. That's not a table to live.
Yeah. And more importantly, for someone to be told, for you to be patriotic and people are thinking about families now, and people are thinking about the longevity of a rugby career. Rugby career is not too long.
Yes.
I mean, very few players, outliers, can go ahead and say, I know I played 15, 20 years. No. The maximum you'll see yourself playing is somewhere within the region of maybe 12 years maximum. And within those 12 years, you want to have made enough to be able to take care of yourself for the rest of your life. And that can prove to be a challenge. So that's a breakaway league that is coming through, and it is coming in thick and fast. As to maybe
if you can even take it nearer home, South Africa. If you remember, South Africa were not picking players that were playing in Europe for the Springboks. But when Erasmus came in, he said, no, it's nonsense. Why? Because you cannot stop people. People are now chasing money. And they're chasing insurance, life insurance. And the life insurance comes from your earnings during your playing career. So at the moment, I know it sounds like England might win the battle, but I don't think long term. That is if the breakaway league becomes sustainable and successful. I don't think they win the war. I don't think they win the
Look,
battle.
let's also be fair. What is currently happening right now? The top paying league for rugby in Europe is France.
Yes.
If you go to France, you are going to make good paper.
Yeah.
Now, if they're the top paying ones and they are offering maybe somewhere within the region of 150 to around about 200,000, and then someone else is coming with 900,000, I mean, come on, let's put things in perspective. All Blacks is suffering the same thing right now, and that's why you're finding their performances here and there, because they said, no, Richie Moanga, if you're leaving us, then you kind of have to retire from All Blacks, because we will not pick you unless you are. But a lot of All Blacks players are now going to Japan, going to France, in order to secure their future. So I think that is something that they obviously need to think about. And I think the first biggest test for Brett Robinson to try and deal with this whole rugby ecosystem and see how that goes together. But of course, good news as well is that Egypt, Lesotho have been given full member World Rugby status. So that means now we're getting more and more countries that are going to be playing, for example, in repechage tournaments, in qualifying tournaments for the Rugby Africa Cup main tournament. Most probably we're going to see the Rugby Africa Cup being expanded, which will also be good for the continent because you're bringing in new markets. New markets is new money. Already World Rugby expanded the Rugby World Cup by expanding it and ensuring that there would be more that would be coming through. I would feel that they needed to have given us more places as Africa.
Yeah, as Africa.
But anyway, that's just our thinking and so on. Anyway, we're going to take a short break. When we do come back, yes, we're going to wrap it all up because the European League is back. Will Amorim take off on the right foot? Well, that's the question we'll answer on the other side. All right, so welcome back. Let's wrap it all up, Nathaniel, and let's talk about, as Peter Drury said, the league we all want to watch.
And the manager we all want to watch.
That's Ruben Amorim. He's coming in. His first assignment is going to be against a very stubborn Ipswich Town. They beat Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham Hotspur quite embarrassingly, I would say. And it's actually put Ange Postecoglou on the tightrope. He's actually walking the tightrope right now. So Amorim, he's coming in. He's got his formations and things like that. We've discussed a little bit about that. But what are your thoughts on Ruben Amorim coming to Manchester United? Has Manchester United finally struck the right chord, or it's yet to be seen?
I think the Manchester United problem is a structural problem, not a coaching problem. Of course, Eric Ten Hag had his issues and weaknesses in terms of tactics, but I think Manchester United, as a club, at the moment, I don't think there's anyone who's worth to put on that shirt. And then the manager comes in. He's coming in just like his predecessor, with a loud mouth. He's already making bold statements. I know Ten Hag came in talking about ending eras. What? But his era ended. Before ended eras. Now Amorim is talking about now we are the engine of the Premier League. What? He's sort of like still in the Ferguson years. He hasn't moved on. But I think if he can get the team to, I don't know how he's going to do it. Because honestly, if you want my honest opinion, I don't think there's any, maybe in terms of potential, yeah, we can talk about maybe Ganacho, Maino, but when you're talking about United material, because I know most people always wish the status quo persists at United because they want something to laugh at, but they forget that United is actually a big club, and big clubs need big players.
Yeah.
In Manchester United at the moment, don't talk about Bruno. He's not supposed to be even. He's not even worth to wear the armband. We don't have big players at Manchester at the moment, and of course, I know people will point it, but the Glazers have thrown money. What? Yes, money has been thrown around, but the material that has been bought is not Manchester United material. Manchester needs big players. But when you look back at the successful years, that is the Ferguson years. You look at the players that were at Manchester, you don't need to be told.
Yeah.
When you look at this current Manchester United, and you try to put it, let's forget about this playing Europa. You try to put it in the Champions League, and you try to think which club
Can they
top
beat?
club can they beat?
They can't.
They can't. So I'm wishing him the best of luck in his endeavors in trying to turn around Manchester United. But I know let's see how he sets up his team against Ipswich.
Yeah.
Then we might have an idea of what he's trying to do. Then maybe you can give him until the new year. I think you'd have played more than
A decent amount.
decent amount of more than 6-7 games. We would have a clear picture of is there any hope or is just another forced stone at Old Trafford.
Well, he's a smiling camper because right now, obviously, Arne Slot is slotted in.
But in terms of the football, he slotted in well. But in terms of the football, it's still.
Is it not maybe because he's slowly but surely, what can I say, working the Jurgen Klopp team out of the system? Because I think if you look at those that are left from Jurgen Klopp days, you've got a Virgil van Dijk, he's in his 30s.
Yeah.
You've got a Mohamed Salah, he's now also in his 30s. I think Robertson as well hit his 30s. And those you can say around about the spine of the team. And Alisson Becker can remain, as a goalkeeper. You can play up until you're 40, 45 or whatever. But you're looking at an outfield that he's now trying to work on and see what he can keep and what he can. And I think he has done pretty well. If he does manage to seal the Zubimendi transfer, which we are also hearing, I think that would add the steel in the midfield that I feel Liverpool are lacking. Right now, they're getting away with the fact that they've got a very good high press, and their transition is very, very quick as well into attack. So that is also helping them. But if challenged in the middle of the park, Ryan Gravenberch has been outstanding, I would say. But I still feel it's more like you've got two central midfielders and one defensive linkman. There's like one of the two central midfielders needs to take the attacking midfield role, which can be a Saboslai, which can be a McAllister. And then you need a Zubimendi, who can be maybe your proper defensive linkman, whilst you've got your Gravenberg doing the box-to-box work.
Yeah, I do agree with you on our midfield. And to come to think of it, we can replace Sobo with Curtis Jones. Because it seems like Arne Slot is now favoring Curtis Jones
more.
And also, I think the other issue that might come into play as we get into the new year is this contract standoff issues. There is so much that needs to be sorted, that hasn't been sorted, because we're looking at Trent Alexander, that will unsettle the team. It seems like from reports, he's been given 2 offers, both of them he's rejected them. So far, we haven't heard about Salah contract offer. It's another contract situation that will come into play, and that can affect the team in the new year, and that will also have a bearing in how Slot will try to set up the team, given we don't have depth on the bench. So that's why I was saying the football is not yet there. The results are there, but the football is not yet there, because there's so much to sort out.
And maybe you'll find that the December run-in might just be the unveiling or the opening of a Pandora's box.
When we look at it holistically, we just one injury away from disaster. One injury away from disaster. Of course, the Alisson injury didn't have much of an effect. Why? Because we have a capable. I'm actually shocked that, and I don't have issues with his decision that he has made, that no, I need to go somewhere else and play regular football, because it was a disrespect on the part of the club, that a keeper that we've had all along, that we never called up, he's been excellent. Though we all know that for a keeper, the opportunities to play are limited, but every time he's been called upon, he's been excellent. And now we hear the club has bought Alisson's replacement. Yet we have a capable number 2. So
I guess it's understandable. But in any case, those are our thoughts. That's our discussion for today. Would love to hear your thoughts and comments. Don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe on our YouTube channel. It's at Sports Extra ZW. And then on our Facebook page, at Sports Extra Zim, on Instagram at Sports Extra Zim. On TikTok, we're at Sports Extra ZW, where we post some of our topical discussions on the show as well. So in any case, that leaves me to say thank you so much, Nathaniel, for joining us and bringing your insight into this. We're always looking forward to you coming through.
Sure.
All right. And of course, that's it from me, Rumba Chakreka. Make sure you join us next week for another episode of Sports Extra. But up until then, cheerio.